this is the overview that you're just participating in right now, and then the next 6 lines have to do with the various 6 stations that we'll be taking you to this evening. We chunked out the video production process as it fits into a learning environment, and those are the things that we feel are the most critical. So the way it's going to work is you're going to actually get to every single one of those stations. The process for sure starts with instructional design. If you don't have a sense of what you're all about in your course and what the content is, well, you shouldn't be launching into video production, for heaven's sakes. And the last step down here, course development, is when we publish the course and it's ready to roll. But the steps that are in the middle are a lot more fluid. We have video shooting, and as I say, you're going to see a little bit of all of these steps tonight. Audio production, graphic design, and then the post-video production, which is editing.
Well, the process we use when developing instruction containing video is the same as the process we would normally go through when designing a course to be delivered via the web. Now, our normal process is slightly different than the standard model you'd find in most texts. We'll go into the details of how and why we break away from that standard ISD model a little bit later on in the presentation. Now, for this particular course, the intended audience is instructional designers and classroom facilitators. And the course was developed to ensure consistency in design methodology. And so the overall goal is to replicate effective methods for designing instruction to consistently create high-quality courses. Now, earlier I mentioned that the process of designing instruction with video is no different than the process you'd normally go through. And that's because video is simply just one type of media at your disposal. So the choice to use or not use video is dependent on the learning context, the skills to be taught, and the practicality of the situation. So when would you use video? Well, you might use video if you need to highlight and credential an expert, establish an emotional connection, create a visual understanding, demonstrate a process, teach skills that involve some physical activity, or to show emotions in body language. So as the instructional strategy is being determined, you're also selecting the media that you're going to be using during that time. So up to this point, we have been pretty much by the book, but from this point on, we break away from the standard ISD model, and this is in an effort to increase our efficiency and to empower our designers. So one way that we do this is by not using storyboards. So instead, we use what we call a course blueprint. And our course blueprint is simply a tool. It's not an end product in itself like a storyboard is. And it is used to help the designers think about what they want to do within the topic. And the blueprint can be very detailed, like you would in a storyboard. It can also have very few details. Now, how the blueprint is used is completely up to the designer. Now, when I'm designing a course, I will rely heavily on the course blueprint. I'll put a lot of detail into it whenever I'm designing the sample topic. But whenever I go into the other topics for the course, I usually just use it to make notes about media, and when ideas pop up, you know, about the screen type and what I like to put in the screen, I use the blueprint for that as well. Now, another way that we increase efficiency and empower designers is by keeping our design development phases pretty fluid. So our decisions about the content are made while it's being developed sometimes. This allows us to move faster and rapidly develop a prototype. And then this prototype is made possible by the use of fill-in templates. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the rest of our time, we're going to go ahead and look at these fill-in templates that we use. All right, so these are the templates that we use for this course, actually. And these templates allow us to enter the content here in this content area, to type in the narration in this blue area, and then it also allows us to enter the graphic description. Now, so in effect what we're doing is we're actually developing the storyboard online, so as we go. And what we're doing is if the designer notices something that needs to be changed, we're able to make those changes right away. So for example, on this particular screen, Up here at the top, we've got a question, we've got multiple choice answers. Now you'll notice that these 4 answers are a little bit more detailed than this first one. So if we were going to, you know, as a designer, I'd notice that, so I'd want to go ahead and make a change. So I'd go in while I'm developing the course and then make that change, save it, load it up to the test server. So it's already been done. Everything's been changed. Now these right here are just the buttons that we have here are just placeholders. Once we've named them, Graphic develops them, ships them in, and they automatically change to the right color and also the right choice. Now, if the template shows video like this template does, what we'll do is go in here in the narration area, and then we'll go ahead and write out the video script for that. And then here in the graphic description, we'll go ahead and write out what we want to see in that video shot. All right, once we finish entering the content, the narration, and the graphic descriptions, what we do is we have a tool that allows us to pull the narrations and to pull the graphic descriptions. So we go ahead and pull those. The narrations we'll send over to the audio department. Audio goes in and records them. The graphic descriptions we send over to our graphics department. Graphics go ahead and gets those put together for us. And if we have a video like it is in this case, what we'll do is we'll pull both and then send both of them over to the video department. Whenever they're ready to do that shoot, they'll contact the instructional designer, and then the instructional designer will oversee the video shoot to make sure we get exactly what we need for this particular screen. Now, once they've done all of this, audio, graphics, and video have developed and edited the materials, and what they'll do is they'll notify the designer, and then he or she's going to take them and put them in the appropriate location, and the course will be completely developed at that point. All right, in today's demonstration, we're only seeing a small portion.
You have 1 minute before moving on to the next station.
So we're only seeing a small portion. As John mentioned before, 2 screens. The first screen that we're looking at here is our jump start, and in this particular screen, we're using video to credential an expert, and then we're using the we're trying to engage the learner by asking a question and soliciting a response. In the second screen, what we're doing is we're setting the context for the learner, and we're using the video to try to engage the learner emotionally. So trying to make an emotional contact with the learner. Now once all the pieces are in place, the instructional designer will do the initial quality check, and then we'll hand that course off to someone who does a formal quality check. And then once that formal quality check's done, we do all the edits, and then the course is ready for alpha, and send it on to the client. Now, the unique process that we implement places more responsibility on the instructional designer, but it also allows us to have more flexibility and control.
My name's Chuck, right there, and I'm helped by John Shearer, our illustrious talent for this particular. That's right. That's right. You're going to see. The purpose of this area is obviously to videotape. So this is really the first production part that you're going to see, and everything else after that will be using part of these elements and other things, other elements that we create for the entire project. If we do run out of time, I know there's very strict timelines right now. Then feel free afterwards to come and talk to me. I'll be happy to spend some extra time with you. I think you guys have just visited the people who are working on the script, ID, instructional design. So my first thing to do would be to talk and meet with the ID people, to look over the script with them, to see if I see any issues, coming up, problems in location or whatever. And in this particular case, the script calls for shooting John, our talent, in front of a green screen. Now, you probably have heard of a green screen or blue screen, that sort of thing. It's very similar to what the TV weathermen use. So they see the map behind them. That's really a green screen or a blue screen. And then our graphics artist, Polly and his group, will actually put a new background, but it won't be a weather map, usually. So that's how that's actually used with the green screen. We also can shoot in other environments. some people ask us to shoot in their location if we're doing some role plays, that sort of thing. We shoot outside, although we don't like shooting outside right now. It's kind of hot. But we do. We did a couple of weeks ago, as a matter of fact. In this case, I've got my cheat sheet here. This environment requires us to light two things. One is the background, and the other is John, or we call it the foreground. So in this case, we got a background and a foreground. The background is pretty simple to light. We have two lights on either side, tilted at about 45-degree angle in, and that's to give it as kind of an even lighting as possible. You can see there on the monitor. We've got a little bit of white on the left and the right of them, but our software can take care of that. So it's not really a big deal. And then we have three lights, well actually two direct lights and one reflective on John. We have this light over here, which is a 1,000 watt light. That's why it's so darn hot in here. It is a 1,000 watt light, and we call it the key light, or the primary source, illumination. You can see on the right side of his face there, it's a little bit lighter. And then this, we call this a reflector. It's actually reflecting light from the key light back onto the other side of his face. So we have a little bit of depth, just so he's not straight lit evenly. And then we also have a light back there in the back right. That's called a kicker or a highlight light that defines his shoulders and his hair. So you can see the edges. And it just helps bring him out from the background a little bit more, which we don't know what the background is yet, but that's what we use it for. The other thing that we take in consideration shooting in this environment is the sound. So I want you guys to just, everyone be quiet for a minute and just kind of listen to the sound in the environment. I hear an air conditioner. There may be some sound from people talking down there. There may be some other things going on. Well, this microphone up here is extremely sensitive. So what we try to do is close all the doors, and we have some sound blankets here that try to take care of the reflective sound. Now you're going to hear a little bit of reflective sound, but it's not going to be that bad. So we have to be really aware of the environment. The other thing that I take into consideration as a shooter is I shoot for the edit. So I try to anticipate the needs of the editor while I'm shooting, or actually before shooting. So I'm thinking about it when I'm seeing the script, what I want to give the editor to work with. And in this case, I've got a wide shot of John. You can see on that monitor over here in this monitor, you can see a wide shot of John, and he will deliver his entire lines, all his lines to me. He may not make it perfect the first time, but that's okay. We'll just keep going until we get a full take. And then I'll take and zoom in on him a little bit to get a little bit tighter and shoot him saying his lines again. That way I have given the editor two different shots. So if John, I know he wouldn't do this, but if John stumbled over the same place every time, then we would break it up and let the editor use the close-up and the wide shot, close-up and wide shot, however they think it might work best. But in this case, we're going to keep him wide the whole time, that you'll see. And then the other thing, the final thing really, is we're going to have John do his voiceover narration in this environment. So you'll hear later in the course, you'll hear John's voice actually talking, but you won't see him on camera. So we want to try to match the audio for the voiceover only with the shot, with him on the shot.
Basically, when you're determining who you want as a narrator, you want to determine if you want a male or female. To help you decide that, you think about the message you're going to send during the course. Is it business training? Is it soft skills? Is it technical training? Also, determine your overall feel. Is it something very professional and business-like that, maybe it's a compliance issue that everybody needs to take, or is it something fun and kind of lighthearted that could be more upbeat? All in all, also think about the end result, because if you want to make edits to the course later on, you want to use a narrator that's readily available, that maybe 2 years down the road you'll still know where he's at or where she's at and be able to find them. On that note, the question is, do you choose a professional narrator or an amateur, maybe in-house voice? I'm going to let you listen to a couple of voices here of narrators that we use. One of them is, his name is Alan. This is a male narrator that we use pretty regularly. He's professional talent and has been around for several years.
There are several key motivators or learning triggers that a facilitator or designer can use in a learning experience. The triggers are:
Okay, so we use him a lot. I mean, he's real easy to work with and he's got a great voice. And this next one, her name's Patty, another professional narrator that we use.
There are several key motivators or learning triggers that a facilitator or designer can use in a learning experience. The triggers are:
You can see how that really has a different feel. It's kind of more nurturing maybe than the first one. And the third one is Adrienne. This is Adrienne. She's going to be helping us out. She's going to be our in-house / amateur voice. Sometimes you use an amateur voice if there's budget constraints. Maybe you want to use your money on something else. Like for this course for example, we're using a lot of video. Maybe the client really wants to show, flash things with video and save some money on audio. Another reason we would use amateur voices are sometimes the client needs to review the course and you can't get the whole picture if you can't hear the audio. So we'll use an in-house voice, we call it scratch audio, so that way they can hear what it sounds like. So let's record Adrienne here. Okay, Adrienne, whenever you're ready.
There are several key motivators or learning triggers that a facilitator or designer can use in a learning experience. The triggers are:
Okay. So you heard how she did that. She did a good job. And you can ask Adrienne herself. Sometimes it might be a little harder than it looks. What do you think, Adrienne? Yes. When you get in the booth, and like I think she said this earlier, sometimes when the script's really long or, it gets hard. So that's something else to consider. Based on the time that's spent, you may just end up saving more money by using professional voice. It really just depends on what the overall feel of the course is. Now, what Adrienne just did is recorded her voice in-house in our booth. We have narrators come in and do this as well. Another method that we could capture the audio is, like you just saw in the video shoot, sometimes we're off-site and our talent is off-site. We don't want to bring them in another day to our offices here, so we'll go ahead and record audio out there as well. When we do that, it's on a digital videotape, and we'll bring it in here and put it into our Avid system. That's what this program is called. A third method is sometimes our narrators, the two that you all heard, Alan and Patty, they actually have booths in their home. So they can record the audio there. We'll send them a script via email. They'll record it and put it on an FTP site or email us the clips, which is really great as well. So whichever way we get it, we put it into our system and start editing it. And the first thing we really need to consider are the levels. Before we cut up into 100 different clips, you just want to set the levels in the beginning so that you only have to do it once. And I've already communicated with the video department, and we've determined that we're going to set our levels at -14 decibels. That way the video and audio sounds the same, because we don't want them to be all over the place and sound totally different. So next thing is we edit the clips, and Adrienne, we just edited Adrienne's, let's say.
There are several key
You can hear
motivators
her
or
recording.
learning triggers that a facilitator or designer can use in a learning experience.
So we do all that in here, and once we edit all the clips for the course, we'll export them. And to do that, just real simple export, and it saves it to a WAV file. That's an uncompressed version. That means that that's the best quality we would ever want. The next step is to compress. You have to think about your delivery method. Are you delivering via web? Are you doing it over the CD, on a CD? Depending on how you deliver, is the file size is going to be really important. So I'm going to let you hear a few different clips. We have an uncompressed version, which is this is going to be from audio that John recorded in the other room. We have an uncompressed, a compressed, a high, and a low compressed. So the first one is uncompressed. This is, like I said, the best quality you would want.
You chose fear. Fear can be a great motivator, especially in circumstances with extreme consequences.
Okay, and that one is about 542 kilobytes in size. Here is a high quality compression. This is about CD quality, and you may want to use this on a CD delivered course. File size is about 98 KB.
You chose fear. Fear can be a great motivator, especially in circumstances with extreme consequences.
So you can see that those two really sounded alike, but the file size is a big differentiator. The last one is a lower quality compression.
You chose fear. Fear can be a great motivator, especially in circumstances with extreme consequences.
Now, could you hear the difference in that one? A little more muffled, maybe? This one would be used well for delivering on web because it's a small file size. It's 19 KB versus the uncompressed version of 542. That's a really big difference. So if you have a course that's delivering over the web, smaller clips like that will really make it run a lot smoother. So once we export and compress all the clips, we just put them all into a project folder on our shared website, and the course developer, which you'll meet later on, that's Christian, he takes all the assets, all the audio clips, all the video, all the graphics, and pulls them all together into the course. So that's kind of where he gets it all.
I'm the creative director here in the graphics department, which you're in right now. I'm going to show you a few things. The two key things we're going to be talking about is interface design and the development that goes into that, and video design. To explain really quick of the software that we use in here, we have many different types of software for different purposes. We have Adobe Photoshop and ImageReady, which is for static imagery that we use for pretty much anything. We have Adobe Illustrator, which is vector imagery. We have Adobe After Effects, which is motion graphics, which we're going to use today. We have Macromedia Flash, which is web motion graphics, and we have Softimage XSI and NewTex Lightwave, which is 3D animation software. You might be recognizing some of that from like watching Ice Age or The Incredibles, that type of animation. This is the same type of software that they would use. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. First thing that happens when we put the graphics together is we receive the graphic requests and the media requests from the instructional designers. They tell us what they want and we put it together. Specifically, we need to make a interface for this entire course. Now, two things we need to consider when that happens is, do they know exactly what they want? And if not, we need to kind of base it off the theme and the feel of the course overall. So in this case, we're just kind of basing it off the theme. So opening this up, you can kind of see the interface that was put together. And I kind of based it off basically off the logo. And if you look at the logo, I kept with the oranges on there and the kind of stylized agency. I kind of made that flowy feel throughout the entire interface to kind of match it up. And it has this good feel to it. Now, a very important thing to consider is for your elements that are going to be in here, like buttons and images, is that you want it to match the interface. And right here we have it. We have these buttons specifically matching this with the color and the smooth outlines. So what we'll do is we'll send this off to Christian, which you'll meet later, and he'll cut it up and place it on to the interface and put it together. But now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put the video pieces together for Charlie, which will be going into the interface. Now Charlie sends this video piece to me, which is John Shear being recorded on a green screen. Now what we need to do is remove John from the green screen. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on a filter called Advantage and remove him off the screen. Now we go ahead and removed him and put him on the foreground and got rid of all the background pieces so that he can fit perfectly on onto this screen. Now it doesn't look quite perfect right now because it's kind of washed out, and the reason for that is because of the background that we're using. It's very bright, and the lighting and everything that was set up on that was not specifically made for this particular shot. So what I'm going to do is just increase the levels, which if you look here, makes him pop out a little bit more, and he looks a little bit smoother. And okay, now I'm going to go ahead and just scale him down and place him where I want him. Now if you look down in this area, there's this really hard edge. Looks like someone just cut a slice in the interface and he's just kind of popping up out of it. I don't want that. That wasn't my idea initially. So I'm going to make a mask which kind of softens it up. And if you look, now the bottom is just kind of softened feel at the top. So what I'll do is I'll cut this out and send it over to Christian, and he'll actually place it in the interface. But that's how we remove John from the green screen. Now Charlie asked me that he needed to have an intro done for the video, the second video that we're doing. So I needed to make a background. I started out with just a white sheet. The first thing I added was a little bit of fractal noise. And now this is what fractal noise is considered in After Effects, which is the program that we're using right now. And not very interesting. It's just clouds, gray, not very pretty. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add a color to make it more match the color of the learning agency. And then just to kind of top this off, we're going to add a light burst to kind of give it this more flowy feel to it. So now you can see this is the piece that we're going to kind of use as an element. This is not done. Now let's actually complete this. So if I go here, now I've brought it on to my screen, and now I need to add in the last bits of elements for this intro before I hand it over to Charlie. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and add in text. These are the learning keys that are part of our little interface here, and I made sure that it's kind of flowing across in this nice little animation. I went ahead and put a shadow on it as well so that you're kind of drawn towards the center. And just to kind of top it off, I added little particle elements in the background so it gives that cool little look to it. And what I'll do is I'll render this piece out and give it to Charlie. Rendering is basically exporting it from the software. Give it to Charlie and he'll place it into the video. Now Charlie also needs me to make specific text headers for each portion of the video. And this is how we do it. We start out with just the text. So now I have the text here and I want to animate it a little bit, so I'm going to have it kind of fade from left to right. So it starts out fading left to right. Pretty cool. Not as cool as it could be. Let's add a glow. So now we're kind of making it glow a little bit and feels like it's like radiating, has energy in it. And just to add a little tiny element in it as well, we're just going to go ahead and put a little crazy thing that goes on behind it. And so whenever it comes onto the screen, it's going to build across, and this thing is just going to kind of build on there. And we're going to do this for every portion. And what I'll do is I'll render this out and I'll send it to Charlie, and Charlie will place in the video just like the intro. Okay. Now, when everything is done and we have the interface completed and we have the video sent to Charlie, Charlie sends it off to Christian, Christian puts it together, they'll call on the graphic artist to come and take a look at it. We're kind of a one portion of the QA process. We have to make sure that our vision, as we saw it, was put together the way we want it to be. Because if things are kind of all over the place, it's not really going through our QA. So basically, when we go there, we look at it, we check it off, everything's fine, we send it to the client, and the client goes for the first rounds of approvals, and then we're pretty much done.
First thing we need to do whenever they come to us and tell us that, hey, we've got a new learning course and we've got some videos that we need to do, is look at the script and find out what exactly do we need to do. So when I looked at the script, I found out there's 2 videos I need. I need one that's a green screen shot of John Shearer giving an introduction to the course. And the second one is the second video in the screen, on the second screen is more of a video montage, to try to strike an emotional chord with the learner, which is it's a good thing to do. So before I can start editing anything, I need to get all the footage into the Avid. We do that various different ways. First way is I've got the tape from the shoot that they shot over there. This has got John on it, so I've digitized that into the Avid system, which is the program that we're using here. The other way is we import footage and music, voiceover, graphics from various different places. So I've compiled everything into my project. I'm ready to start editing. So let's just knock out this green screen one real quick. For me, this one's real easy. All I got to do is find the take that we want, mark it in, mark it out, and throw it off to graphics and let him take care of removing it from the green screen. So I've done that, sent it out. The big one for me is the second video. So let's talk about the second video for a second. Huh, that's funny. So we know, first of all, that we need voiceover. So we've talked to the audio department and gotten voiceover that they recorded in the booth. I'm assuming that you've seen that stage already. So let's go ahead and lay the voiceover in real quick. So this is Adrian in the booth.
Fear is best used when the stakes are high and the consequences for not performing are great. Inspiration is a tool that evokes emotion. Okay,
it gets the point across, but I'm falling asleep after 10 seconds, right? And we got another minute of this stuff to do. So we want to somehow engage the learner. So what we've decided to do is throw some video on top of it. So now this is what we have.
Fear is best used when the stakes are high and the consequences for not performing are great. Inspiration is a tool that evokes emotion that drives.
Okay, so you can see already it's a little bit more engaging. You're interested and you're more likely to stay awake during the presentation. So, but it's not quite ready. I need something else that flares, and I need something in the beginning. So I've asked the graphics people, which I guess you just saw, if they wouldn't mind creating an intro for me and some little flare pieces here and there. So they've done that, and let me just throw them in real quick, and they're in. And now let's see what that looks like.
There are several key motivators or learning triggers that a facilitator or designer can use in a learning experience. Fear is best used when the stakes are high and the consequences for not performing are great. Inspiration is a tool that
So it's better, you know, it's definitely visually interesting, and especially with these bubbles that he put in the background. I love those bubbles. But there's still something missing, you know, right? She still sounds a little cold and boring, you know? So what we've done is we've thrown some music in here. And music is great. Music's a great tool for any kind of video. It warms up the voiceover. It really engages the learner, and it makes it so that they have kind of an emotional response, you know, to what we're talking about. So I found some music that goes along with the different learning triggers, and you'll see it here. This is basically the finished video that we send out to the programmer. So here we go.
there are several key motivators or learning triggers that a facilitator or designer can use in a learning experience. Fear is best used when the stakes are high and the consequences for not performing are great. Inspiration is a tool that evokes emotion that drives learners to learn based on a compelling story or event. Aspiration is a close cousin to inspiration. As with inspiration, learners are motivated by the actions of others. Typically, aspiration is the result of seeing an individual, work group, or even a process that is admired and desiring to achieve what is modeled in that entity. Curiosity entices learners with enough information to seek more. Curiosity fits nicely with learner-driven, discovery-oriented learning. Disconfirmation is essentially learning by failing. People are very often motivated to try again by their failure. The challenge is understanding your audience and knowing which trigger to pull for them in a given situation. Once you complete this topic, you'll know how to employ each learning trigger in your instruction, know which trigger is right for your audience, and pull the right triggers at the right time.
That takes care of our message. We've said what we want to say. We've said it in such a manner that's going to keep the learner's interest and keep them involved in the show. So I found some footage. I love this little fish. He looks at me like he's a curious little fellow. And then and this little girl that supposedly fell off her bike, and then she gets back on and she rides off into the sunset. And they illustrate the different learning triggers. So then what I would do is I would take this video and I'd export it, compress it, basically meaning I'd make it smaller, make it more manageable for the end user to see it, which brings me into my next point. Through the entire process, you always have to have your end product in mind. Now for us, this is going to be web-based, and which means that file sizes have to be a lot smaller. We can't have big videos because somebody sitting at home with their dial-up isn't going to be able to download. Now, to be completely honest with you, the size of the video that we have over there, nobody would be able to download on dial-up either. We've made it larger so you can see it better, but on a CD, that's exactly what we would do. If you're distributing this on videotape or something or DVD somebody's going to be seeing it on a TV, you wouldn't do things like this. You see how it's cut off on the sides? The inspiration is cut off on the sides. You would have to keep in mind that they're not going to see the whole image, but since we're going on the web, this is what they're seeing. They're seeing the entire thing. So, that's the purpose of always keeping the end product in mind when you're doing this thing. The only other crucial thing, well, not the only other crucial thing, but the other crucial thing is that the audio levels for the video match what the audio department's doing. So we've collaborated before this and decided that negative 14 decibels is going to be where we're going to level all the audio, so that the voiceovers match, so that the video matches, so that the video of John Shearer matches, so it all sounds smooth in the end. So that's essentially my job. Then I would hand this video off to the programmer and let him implement it into the course.
Hi, I'm Christian Zamber. Y'all may have heard that already. I'm the e-learning technologist for the Learning Agency. Basically, this is y'all's last stop, isn't it? So y'all have seen all the different stations for the media production of what goes into producing a video and what goes into producing a video for an online course. And what I'm going to show you is the final product and how it gets to be the final product. Basically, e-learning technologist says it all. It's a name that we came up with for me because it's not a standard industry title, but it describes exactly what I do, and that is I do a lot of everything. I do programming and web development, and I work with some graphics. Not like I don't design anything, but I put it into the courseware. So what I do when it's my turn, when I'm up to bat here, I take our course architecture. We have a course architecture template system, a template set that we start every online course with, and that architecture has options for creating an AICC compliant course that works with an AICC compliant LMS, or just a standalone web-based version of a course, or a course that'll just run straight from CD-ROM. And we've built the structure, the architecture, to where all we have to do is we use this database tool to turn those features on and off. But the course right away has options for all these different things that we could do, audio and video and all these sorts of different templates. So what I do is I take that course structure and I copy it over for the new course, and then I go in to Dreamweaver once I've copied it over, and I start I get rid of the things that we don't need for that particular course. I'll know basically what the course is going to need and not need, so I'll take out certain options and trim it down so it's just what our client needs for that particular instance. As you can see here, we have a naming convention. This is just an example of, you'll see the name of the audio file matches the name of the page name up here. So the architecture is smart in that you don't have to program each page with every asset and every audio file and everything like that, because it just pulls in the right one according to whatever page you're on, because we name it a certain way. So that's the first step, is my setup. I get this all ready, and then what I'll do is, and this isn't always in order, as you have seen. I think y'all went from beginning to end, but this is not a linear process, this whole thing. But usually, before any of the assets get developed, audio, video, or graphics, I'm going to set up this structure. Paulie's going to design the interface that you guys saw. I'm going to get the interface, and I'm going to use the ImageReady, and I'm going to cut it up into its individual pieces, because you don't just put one huge thing out there. Cut it up into its buttons and the backgrounds and all that comprise the look and feel of the course, which I'll show you the finished product in a minute. Once I'm done cutting those graphics up, I put them into the course structure that I already started, and so it's ready to go. It's ready to get content entered into it by choosing a template. As you can see here, I have a Flash video template, which is what you'll see in a minute, and then the second page is just a video template, which it has a place for the template in there now. And this is the raw course file, the raw page that you see right now in Dreamweaver. Once I slice the interface, by that time I should have the content from the instructional designer, which the instructional designers worked real close with the client, with SMEs and all that, to get the content and then to tell us what exactly the client wants. And so once I get that, I will set up the course, and then I start entering content, usually before like I said, before any of the media is developed. And once I enter all the content, we have this database tool that goes in and opens up all the pages on its own, its automated system, and grabs all the asset names out of it, with graphic descriptions and file names. And that's what that prints out is what we give to the graphics department and to the audio guys to start creating their part of the piece of the puzzle. So they'll know exactly what to create, where it goes, the description of the graphics and all that. Once they do get that, they start creating, and then they create the video, they create the audio, they they record the audio, they record the video, create the graphics, and then it all comes back to me. Once I get all the finished products, I drop it into the course structure, and then I go to a tool, the course publishing tool. I made mention of that. This is where we select the options that the course is going to have. And in this tool also, we enter the references to the pages that we created over in Dreamweaver. And then when I push publish here, it creates a menu that references all the pages, and it puts it into a concise file, and it drops it into the course structure, the course structure that I told you about over here in Dreamweaver. And that's when we launch the course from the web, it reads that file so it knows exactly what to do. So I'm going to show you the finished product now.
What motivates learners to learn? There's been a lot of research done on this topic throughout the years. One of the most compelling theories suggests there are 5 factors, or triggers, for motivating learners. Suppose for a moment you're teaching a group of customer service representatives to demonstrate the value of a new product in hopes of boosting sales. Choose which learning trigger you would pull to motivate these learners. You chose disconfirmation. Many people are motivated to learn by failure.
There are several key motivators or learning triggers that a facilitator or designer can use in a learning experience. Fear is best used when the stakes are high and the consequences for not performing are great. Inspiration is a tool that evokes emotion that drives learners to learn based on a compelling story or event. Aspiration is a close cousin to inspiration. As with inspiration, learners are motivated by the actions of others. Typically, aspiration is the result of seeing an individual, work group, or even a process that is admired and desiring to achieve what is modeled in that entity. Curiosity entices learners with enough information to seek more. Curiosity fits nicely with learner-driven, discovery-oriented learning. Disconfirmation is essentially learning by failing. People are very often motivated to try again by their failure. The challenge is understanding your audience and knowing which trigger to pull for them in a given situation. Once you complete this topic, you'll know how to employ each learning trigger in your instruction, know which trigger is right for your audience, and pull the right triggers at the right time.
At this point, we would run through our quality control process and procedures that we would do an internal review of all we've just done to make sure everything's right, send anything back for edits that we need to, for graphics or audio or whatever, and then we would send it on to the client for their review, and then we might make changes from that, but that's the end of the process. So that's it.